Park.
Yeah, park meals and
Great firewood.
Well, also with the park though, if you try to expand the road, improve the road to the ACSP, there is a massive drone right on the edge there
Nice.
that we need to.
That's the idea though, you know, to
We,
You send a link.
extend that road, put a fork property.
Yeah, it is on there.
Okay.
so I mean, put the road in, yes, but. It's a key.
Okay, it's clear now.
Yay.
That's all right.
You're a member.
You're out.
There you go.
Oh.
Need one of those name tags on the back of
Yeah,
it.
right on the back of my hat.
Like you're doing hard top, so you know who's the back of you looking at.
Exactly.
Oh,
As seen in the Super Bowl.
Mark, can you hear us okay? Michelle, can you hear me okay?
I can
Yes,
hear
I
you
can.
fine.
Yes, I can, sorry.
And I assume Claire, you're the person on the phone?
Are you talking to me, Mark?
No, Mark, I'm sorry. I'm trying to see if Claire is there.
Oh, okay.
She might not be able to unmute. Is it *66 to unmute on your phone, I think?
not our new member, is it?
Our new member is not here. So Doug, we are recording now, so you can get started. We do have a quorum.
Okay, it's now 5:05 and it's Wednesday, January 5th. And we're at City Hall and it's 2022. This is the Urban Renewal Budget Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we'll start with introductions. I'm Doug Morton, the chairman of the Budget Committee, and we'll go right over here.
Jessica Chilton, Vice Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, John Walsh, Urban Renewal Agency Administrator. How about that? Patrick Berkeley, Counselor.
Mayor Schul.
Steve Topaz, Counselor. And we'll go up to our Zoom.
Mark Gunderson, advisory member.
Michelle Damus, committee member.
Claire, are you there?
She might be having trouble unmuting.
Okay, all right. So those are our board members and item on the agenda is election of budget chair and vice chair. What Jessica Chilton failed to mention is that she is vice chair of this and I am chair. So we have a discussion open for next coming year. Any discussion on that? Any nominations? Any ideas at all from the floor?
Can we continue with present officers?
What do you think, Jessica?
I don't know if anyone from there would like to.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll call,
Or
Yeah, I'll get that. But
Oh,
I'll start with you. We heard from Topaz, and then he asked a question. If we should continue with the existing officers.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and I'll just go around, and then what I'm seeing up there on the screen is Michelle. Any ideas?
That sounds, I would second that if it were a motion.
Okay, and what about you, Mark? Mark Henderson?
He's muted.
Mark.
They should have the ability to unmute themselves.
Mark, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I would second that as well.
Okay, and Patrick,
Yes. Continue.
you're fine with that?
So I'd like to make a motion that we,
I want to hear from Topaz
well,
first.
he's the one who made it. He's the one who made it.
Can we ask Claire?
Claire's got a thumbs up.
You'd ask.
Oh, okay. I was like, she's there now.
Oh, she's got thumbs up, all right.
Sign language.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Doug Morton as president and Counselor Chilton as vice president. Vice chair.
Been moved and seconded that Counselor Morton and Counselor Chilton goes chair and vice chair again for another year. Am I correct at that?
Correct.
Okay, so this is the annual budget meeting. And I have no problem with that. I'd like to end my regime as a city councilman and move on out of here. The Sweet 16, this is my 16th year, so I'd like to, I'm honored to chair this for the existing year. And I'm honored also to have Jessica here as the vice chair, who will probably take over at this time next year when I could be here because I could be a citizen at large at that time, but I don't think so.
I think you might have to technically to hand over
Oh, really?
for the first annual meeting.
You're making it hard on me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I accept, and Jessica, how about you?
We voted on it. We've made motions and we voted on it.
No, he's
We got
asking.
a second, we're having a discussion.
Yeah, they can deny if they want to.
Okay.
I agree, Doug, 16, everything, yes, well deserved.
And again, I'm honored to be with Jessica and yes,
Oh, thanks.
thank you for the endorsements. I appreciate that. So we will we'll move forward with a vote. All in favor, please, we'll do it vocally and by person. So I'll start with Jessica
Aye.
and then we'll go up to Claire. Claire, are you there?
She said,
Yes, no? Okay.
Trouble
And-
unmuting herself. She says aye.
Sorry, I was waiting for Matt to let me unmute. Aye.
Okay, there you are. Okay, and Mark Anderson? You're muted. Mark?
Unmute.
I as well.
And Michelle? You're muted.
But she's giving a thumbs up.
Okay, thumbs up, thank you. And so we'll go to Patrick
Aye.
and Mayor and Mr. Topaz.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Thank you again. So motion passed. Doug Morton will be chairman and Jessica Chilton will be vice chair. Okay, everyone had a chance to read over the minutes. Our first agenda item here basically is approved minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes as presented in the packet? Anyone have any kinds of issues with the minutes at all? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes for the April 27th, 2021 URA budget.
Thank you, Patrick. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the April meeting. I hear a discussion.
No, I have something, it has me down as absent. And by my calendar, I show I was present, but
You are able.
Say that again.
I might have been in, it shows me as absent and I believe I was present. Am I,
Okay, so we can make that correction, that Michelle was present on that meeting, and it shows her as absent.
thank you.
And is there any discussion on that? I see that as a addition to approving the minutes.
We make a motion on the approval or the addition.
We can make an addendum to the motion.
We don't have to, okay, I make an amendment to the motion.
Okay,
That we mark Michelle as present.
okay. It's been moved that we make an amendment to the motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second, and I have a question. Looking at this, I don't see anyone else listed besides us. So like Claire, Mark, I remember them all being there too, right?
They're listed in the members present. Bill Eagle, Claire Cat, Garrett.
I'm looking at the wrong. Do you have the agency meeting?
Yeah, you've got the
Yeah,
agency.
you're,
You know, here's
the
the.
agency minutes are different than the budget agency.
Okay, so maybe that's what maybe Michelle was also looking
I
at.
was looking at the budget committee minutes, and it does show her as absent, so we will make that change.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle, for correcting us on that. So then it's been motioned and seconded that we make an amendment to include Michelle on present with the minutes. All in favor, we can raise our hand and signify that signify on people who are on Zoom. If you got it. Mark, where are you on this one? Up, okay, got it, okay. It's unanimous, all right. So the motion and the addendum motion has been approved. And we'll move forward into the public comment on RA budget. And is there any kind of public comment? Anyone available? Seeing anyone on Zoom? Seeing no one? Let it be signified that there was no public comment. Budget message, and I would believe this goes to John.
Your agency administrator.
Agency Administrator, John Walsh.
All right, well, thank you, and happy New Year to all, and congratulations to Chair Morton and Vice Chair Shelton on your assignment. So you'll notice that it's January and we're having a budget meeting, so that's a little bit different than most years past, and we're having years past has been more closely aligned with the city's budget. So what we're doing here is in a large part because the budget committee is the same for both agencies. We're trying to create some separation between the agency now that it's getting on a path towards sustainability here, and we're trying to collect increment and do all the things it's supposed to do. Performance wise, as you just make it a standalone kind of thing. So having this meeting is one way to do that physically, and but what I wanted to talk about was, as far as my message is, kind of the history. We're going to go one of two meetings. This is the budget committee meeting. After we're done with this meeting in a few minutes here, we're going to be talking about the agency meeting. We're going to go through this exercise again, as far as the officers and things of that nature. Was where we've gone with urban renewal. I mean, urban renewal actually started in 2008. The council was actively working in 2008 on a renewal plan, got pretty far with it, had a consultants on board with a big binder of information about it. And through a district that was really quite similar to the one we have now. And it wasn't nearly as sophisticated as today, as our plan is today, because there was about a decade of planning work post of that. So the plan we have now is much greater. But in 2008, we all know that was a period of recession, and the economics were not in a good place. And the foundation of urban renewal, tax increment financing is about investment and growth. That's how they succeed, right? So the city defines an area, we collect that increment of tax, and we invest that in projects that create tax base and accelerate tax growth. So in 2008, that was not a very good idea. And then the council put the brakes on it pretty hard. Council work was part of that. And it really sat and did nothing for quite a few years. And we get into this recessionary kind of planning phase, looked at our transportation plans, looked at our community economic development plans. We started working on projects like the river gateway plan, the riverfront connector plan, the waterfront framework plan. You know, really have this cadre of information and really pretty refined information with developed projects to advance whenever we got to the point we could be able to fund it. And then in 2017, we revisited this. We went through this process again. Came up with a plan, included, populated with all this good work that we've been priding ourselves on. And now we're at a place that we can move forward on some of that work. And our very initial plan had it's all of the years since 2017, Armstrong was kind of a wild card investment that we thought had planned a $40 million investment into that facility, which was going to really kickstart the agency. And we all know by now that didn't happen. And not only did that $40 million investment not happen, but they closed doors and left. So that actually put the tax submarine, and it took a while to come down and then come back up. And for a couple of years, it was practically increment, very small, like 50,000 over a couple of years. And so what we did with that is we took what can we do to realign our plans to get back on track? This agency's in the ditch, we need to fix it. And we went through this plan amendment process. We looked at the properties that were not likely to be on the tax rolls in the future, that had environmental constraints. We added other properties that we felt were coming online, with kind of that legal balance, but also kind of the balance with our stakeholder partners, with other taxing agencies, that we're getting what we needed to fulfill the plan without kind of overreaching. And I think we've struck that balance. The increment is, we're on a good path right now to fulfill our plans and get the projects done in a timely manner. So it's good news. We're still in a phase where right now the Riverwalk is kind of leading we're working with Special Opportunity, Public Works Opportunity Fund to secure $14 million of loan money. And the agency's very much in a savings mode, where we're intending to obligate all of the revenues that's coming in from the agency to the debt service of this project that we're working on right now, with the extension of First Street, the phase 1 of the Riverwalk, those types of investments. And there's other projects that are eligible for funding too, but our priority is obligating that, servicing that debt. And, the council agencies will see that coming soon. But we've gone from 50,000 to 400,000, and then as part of the amendment process, we also did a financial analysis and to prove that tracking, and we're tracking very nicely with the growth scenarios. So it is a budget that pushes everything towards contingency. So there's no plans really proposed to be funded out this year, but that doesn't mean it couldn't. And the other big thing is we're looking at going into a biennial budget. It's a 2-year cycle. So something that a number of agencies do, that basically you still look at the budget every year, but you adopt a 2-year budget, because we know that we're not going to spend a lot of money over the next 2 years.
Does the urban, I have a question. Does the Urban Renewal Agency have the opportunity to call a special budget meeting at any time during the?
There's a minimum, the agency does, yes.
Thank you.
Bylaws allow you to, your minimum of one meeting a year, but, and once we start having projects, and there'll be much more frequent meetings.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So other than that, I would encourage after this meeting's over, if we have a presentation on how urban renewal works, and it's going to be great.
So this is what we have as revenue for last year. Is that what or is this projections for the 1,250,000? Is that? I know we have difficulties with the county because the county assessor doesn't go till October.
Contemplate that.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it on Zoom and on the screen at the same time.
Okay.
So I can show you.
You want me to read through that in terms of discussion? Because we've heard the budget message. And was there any questions at all from John? And I know, Mayor, you're asking a question, but also I think it was a question that's regarding items 1, 2, and 3 down here. And I think maybe I should read through that for the record, and we can discuss it. Okay. Any questions or any comments, any further comments on John's report by chance?
John, as we're moving forward in the Riverwalk and many other things, the PR of things not going well. We've had a problem with pirate boats, and some of the pirate boats along the big portion of our waterfront on the industrial site, as well as some of the new, say, geologic findings as they're becoming public. How do we handle that? There's more for us to drill a bunch of core holes, and we have some information on that. Is that information being rolled into?
I would like to actually have Doug read this information because
Okay.
I actually didn't get my answer to the question
Okay.
first.
So,
Yeah, let me
Discussion
get through the discussion, okay? There are 3 items on the discussion. 1, move to approve expenditures for fiscal year 2022, 2023. Biennial budget expenses of $1,250,000 in 22-23 and $2,114,000 in 23-24, and to establish the maximum expenditures as shown on the fiscal year 2022 and 2023 biennial budget, proposed budget. That's 1. 2 is second that motion, but vote no. That obviously allows us then to have a discussion. This is the opportunity to propose changes to the budget. If suggested, you need to motion and second, followed by discussion and vote on the change of motion. Wow, that's
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I need to clarify. I know there's a colon after discussion, that is a typo. So that is after the budget message, that is meant where the discussion would happen regarding what you have been presented as the budget. The 1, 2, and 3, there are the steps that I have put in the agenda for you to adopt. So the first step would be to make a motion of what you just read.
Yeah.
The second step would be to second the motion. There's no vote at this time, and then that's the opportunity that you have to make any changes. And then after there are any changes, then you would need to step 3.
So he made, it's a motion that you.
So,
right. Okay,
so I apologize if I did.
let me read step 3 so that there's a bit of flow through this. Item 3, after all motions have been considered, have the original motion amended to reflect the new revised expenditure summary and vote on the new motion. Okay, so with that,
So can I go ahead and make a motion
Yes.
to move and approve expenditures for fiscal year 2022-2023 biannual budget expenses of $1,250,000 in 2022-2023 and $2,114,000 in 23 budget year 2023-2024 to establish the maximum expenditures as shown on the fiscal year 2022-2023 biannual proposed budget.
Second.
Okay.
okay, it's been moved and seconded that we've got item as read. I'll have to read it again for the record. Move to approve expenditures for our fiscal year 2022-23 biannual budget expenses of $1,250,000 in 22-23 and $2,114,000 in 23-24, and to establish the maximum expenditures as shown on the fiscal year 2022/2023 biannual proposed budget. Been moved and it's been moved and seconded on that motion, and says, you know.
Now I can discuss. Discussion. So I would like to just, for clarification, that if we adopt this, we're not held hostage to it if it's projected that there's more money available there. If we had other projects, I understand our waterfront and I get all that. But if there is other monies available and there's other ideas that are very impactful, because the way this urban renewal works is it does feed itself, you're right. If we can entice growth in certain areas, we are encouraged to do that. That's the whole purpose of an urban renewal. And of course, waterfront is the biggest growth. You're absolutely right. But in other little areas, when investors propose ideas in the urban renewal, has there been any budgeted for other projects in this fiscal years? And if not, why?
So all of the money being budgeted contingency means you can spend it. We do have an adopted urban renewal plan with pages and pages of projects and priorities, and those, if there's things that get elevated that the agency wants to act upon, it's within your purview to do that. Caution, caveat, we are going to have some debt service payments coming in a few years that we want to make well ensure we can pay. And we're on a good path. We feel good about that.
Yes, yeah, that answers my question. That's all I had.
Any other, pardon me, any other discussion with our Zoom people and in-house here regarding the motion and the second? Okay, Eric.
I would just note that if you look at the total resources, how that have to rate at which that grows goes from 52, 53 to 400 to 1.2 million to 2.1 million. And that's how this agency is going to grow. And it's going to be getting a lot of increment as there's investment in it.
And those are debt to services, so you can leverage more money than that. That's why it's covering the 14 million right now.
Claire has a question.
Patrick Berkeley, did you have a question?
No, I noticed that Claire
Claire.
had her hand raised, sorry,
Pardon me, do you have a question?
Yeah, and I think maybe it was touched on, and I might need just a little bit more explanation of what John was just saying around this trend of putting all of the money into contingency. And I'm hearing the benefits of that is a high level of flexibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, which makes some sense. But I think I'm curious around what then is the process in which for making expenditure decisions in that contingency fund. I think as a citizen, sometimes when things are line itemed, it creates some clarification around where money is going. So I think the question is, what's the process for making spending decisions in that contingency fund?
Or that'll be answered at the meeting following this. but John has more in depth, yes.
Well, it's a very simple budget. I mean, contingency, that's it, right? In the future, it'll have a full, you know, the whole typical budget things of, you know, personnel, projects, contingencies, you know, all of those things. But because we're not paying any administrative costs out of it, because we're not funding any heavy direct projects known at this time, we're just opting to go with all kinds of contingency. It is the most flexibility. Anyone add a point?
Yeah, I just wanted, I think what Claire was asking was what the process is for if the council decides to use some of that 1.25 million that's in contingency this year. If that change, according to Oregon budget law, if that change in appropriation is greater than 10%, it requires a resolution and a public hearing.
Yeah.
If the change is less than 10%, it does not require a public hearing, but you still have to pass a resolution. So there still is a public process, no matter if it's $1 or if it's the full 1.2 million.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. That was my question.
So that would happen through the Urban Renewal Agency Board,
Yes.
not the.
City council.
Any further questions? Claire, thank you. That's very good. Very good comment. Thank you.
So maybe I'm not following this correctly then, because I thought I was hearing it differently. So it going into contingency means it cannot be used?
It can. It's still an appropriated account and category. The only category that you would not be able to spend money on unless there is a declaration of emergency is if money is placed into an unappropriated category. So we specifically,
Sure.
for like our water and sewer, we specifically put 750 grand or 3 months of expenses in unappropriated. That means we cannot touch it unless there's a declaration of emergency by you.
Yes. Okay.
Here, we're just placing it in contingency, which means we can move it to other places
Yep.
if you desire as a council.
Okay, that's, yeah, I was following it correctly then.
And so just to clarify, right now, the plan is to use that money on the Riverwalk project.
If there was an idea that made sense for the Urban Renewal Committee to target, and it made practical sense, and you have the process go through, it meets the criteria, and we're gonna learn more about that. So I think we're kind of getting a little bit, it's good what we're doing right now.
Yeah, good questions.
Yeah.
And I think we got to move along. We're 5 minutes overdue. We're down to item number 3. After all motions have been considered, have the original motion amended and reflect the new revised expenditure summary and vote on the new motion. We have a motion and a second on the table. I'm going to call for a vote at this time. So I'll start with, I'm going to go individually this time, and I'll start with Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
And we'll go up to board person Claire Fatt.
Aye.
Okay, and Mark Anderson. Mark, you're muted.
I apologize. Are we voting on it?
Okay, and Michelle Damas.
Aye.
Okay, and Pat Berkeley,
Aye.
and Mayor Scholl,
Aye.
and Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous. And so that item number 1 is adopted. That motion is adopted. And don't have me read it again. We got it 3 times. Sorry. So any other kinds of comments about our meeting and what has transpired?
The question I had is, there are a number of things happening around this area. The pirate ships, we have geologic data, all of which affect to a great extent how the waterfront industrial. How do we handle that? How does that affect us as an agency?
So, well, the agency is a
Funding mechanism.
funding mechanism to do projects, yes. And the extent we're making investments that improve the quality of life and investment in the area, I suppose that you could make some loose ties to enforcement or things of that nature, if that's where you're going with the question.
I was thinking,
Working on those fronts and other avenues of the council.
I was thinking that we were gonna have a tugboat company come here, and because of some problems along the water, they had to go away. Does that affect us in any way?
I don't think that has anything to do with this, Counselor Troopers.
Can I make a
Yeah, I'd like-
motion on the budget?
What I'd like to do as chairman of this committee is move on, because I think we're kind of muddying the waters at this time, and we can address that concern later on, but not in but I don't think in the budget committee, we aren't going to handle those kinds
Okay,
of.
I was just wondering, 'cause that was money income, that was
Okay,
the question, where the question came from.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
okay.
Second.
Second, okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn, so consider this meeting adjourned. You have an agenda for me for the next meeting?
I never had one.
Timmy does, she says.
The other one, I don't know what happened.
So here.
I think I didn't have to read anything. Would you guys like to go?